never inside. Where you going, boy? Never inside. Where you at? Never inside. Inside.
The never inside theory. Are we going outsiding? That's the theory. Let's outside. Outside ain't easy. The P-Bros are back. All right, welcome back to the Never Inside Theory. This is Luke. I'm with my co-host Jacob, also known as Pound Sign. Pound Sign, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. And we have another guest with us today. This is the rich and famous Mike Johnston. Welcome, Mike. Thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
Thanks for having me, man. This is a pleasure to be a part of all that great energy you're putting out into the universe. And yeah, I'm excited to join you.
You know what, man? There's a lot of people out there like us, and there's a lot of people out there that don't know it yet, but they want to be like us. So this is our way to introduce them to that thought.
But a new T-shirt that comes out says "Be like us."
Be like us. It's called a motivational T-shirt. But Mike Johnston is an old friend of mine. The way I met you, Mike, was you were referred to me for tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah. Came to your house, got a couple great pieces of ink, but more importantly, some awesome motivational conversations about life and the direction we were headed. And look where we're sitting now. God, how many years has that been? It's got to not quite 10, I don't think, but probably damn near close.
You know what, dude? It's probably about 10 years.
Wow.
So I've had my current shop for 5.5 years, over 5.5 years already. I had my other shop for 3 years before that, and you were coming to me before the place I was at before that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's been a while, man. But Mike, I think we were talking about my hike of the John Muir Trail when we first met. I think I might have shown you my video that I made, and got you a little into the idea, and then you started exploring that and wanting to come check it out. So we started doing that together, and I think kind of all blossomed from there, as they say. And now you're quite the outdoorsy type now, huh? You're doing your Spartan races and
yeah.
Well, not right now because you're a broke dick, as they say.
Hey, I don't know if you can see behind me, but I got my my workout room set up right now, and I got that new tonal machine, and that thing. First of all, this isn't an advertisement, but worth its weight in gold. That's really awesome. So I'm back in training.
To try one of those things.
Yeah, I just can't use my right foot, dude. I want to open a gym with those things. You need no other equipment. You can bench up to 200 pounds on that machine.
Seriously?
So, yeah, it's pretty insane. Pretty insane.
That's pretty cool, man.
So yeah, man, our first hike, Maggie Lakes. I remember
was that the first
one? I don't know. Maggie was the first one we did, just you and I solo and for the distance for overnights. Like we did another short one where the whole mountain caught on fire. Not our fault. Disclaimer.
As far as we know, anyway. It's still questionable.
But yeah, I remember Maggie Lakes, and that one was the first time I really realized that you don't need to carry as much shit. Like 50 pounds of weight was not a good idea. And
I think that's typically a lesson learned the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still haven't quite learned.
I think we were carrying 48 ounce or 48 big cans of beer to go.
At least you didn't have to trek them out, right?
Well, that's the thought process, right? It's like suffer to get it out there, enjoy that first night, and have a nice easy stroll on the way back.
Yeah, which we had hail and not an easy stroll on the way back. Still a beautiful experience.
Outside and ain't easy.
Yeah, and this whole program that you have now about obviously being outdoors, it resonates so well with me, because I feel like, well, and it's true, human nature has lost contact with the outdoors, with Mother Nature, with Pachamama, like the thing that heals and that gives us the strength, and the life force energy comes from being outdoors, So yeah, I'm excited to see where you take this, and hopefully it touches people and helps people realize that it just takes one person to make a difference in so many lives. And if you get outdoors and do stuff, you have a different energy to share with people that changes their lives, like you did with me. It encouraged me when I watched that fast John Mural trail that you did. What, you complete the whole thing in 10 days or something, right?
Nah, not that fast. 13.
13.
It was
average
ridiculous.
person takes 3 weeks.
Yeah. Someday I'm gonna go back and do that the right way and not be in a hurry, because you know how it was when you first started going with me. You're like, dude, what is your fucking problem? Why do we have to go like 30 miles before lunch? Like, what's the deal here? Like, what are you trying to prove? And
You are a Marine at heart for sure when it comes to hiking.
Yeah, I finally calmed down a little bit on that. Although I am, and I know your little your ankle's a little jacked up right now, but I want to do a trip, just something that doesn't take months to plan, because it's just like an overnighter. But I want it to be like a hardcore overnighter. I want to do. I don't know if I'm going to find anyone in my sphere that's going to be willing to go, but I want to do like a 15, 20 mile hike in one day. Yeah. Just minimalist. I mean, we're talking just a tarp and a frickin' blanket, and just the bare, but a nice steak to cook when you get there. And and just like 20 miles out, 20 miles back, overnighter. So just 2 days.
Dude, I feel like the hiking part is your ticket. You buy a ticket to go get where you're going. But if it's all ticket, what's the point? Okay, like I feel like I'm getting better at it. And the last few times that we went hiking, obviously there's a lot of things I didn't take with me, like the second and third time, right?
Right.
Keep the weight off of there. And I enjoy it, but yeah, the long hikes, I'm just still trying to. I see the necessity of it, because you can't be somewhere that everybody else doesn't get to see, unless you put the effort to getting out there. So I'm willing to do it, but it's not like fun's not the first word that comes to my mind when you say, let's go do 400 miles and then we'll have lunch and then we'll see where we go from there. I'm like, oh my goodness, dude. But this last one kicked my ass. That wasn't Maggie Lakes, was it?
No. What was the last
we
one?
went to the 2 lakes, and then it was my kid.
Oh, Jenny Lakes.
Jenny Lakes. And that was a lot of miles.
That was a lot of ups.
It was all
downs.
uphill. It was all uphill. I still don't understand how we kept going uphill, and then all of a sudden we got to the truck at the end. But it was
like, I didn't know that.
I was like,
the
all
truck
right,
was at 20,000
We're gonna
feet.
go this path and then come all the way around, and it was all uphill, and we made it right back to where we were. So it's a cruel joke.
Man, you should remember Catalina, Mike?
Yeah. Catalina killed me.
You want to talk about some
It was
hills.
all uphill and my knees were shot, man. That was brutal.
Yeah, that was a brutal hike. That one was kind of funny, because what we did 3 days or 2 nights, and then on the third day we ended up at the 2 harbors.
We ended up with lobster and beer and didn't
with
get
lobster
any further.
and beer. So we get to 2 harbors, and there's still like the next morning, like another trek to get to the very northwestern tip of the island, and over mountains, of course. And so we got there, and Mike's like, dude, screw this. I'm taking the ferry home. You guys have fun. You guys are out of your damn minds. So, we were going to stay the night there anyway, at the campground there. And while we're like, well, we'll hang out and drink a beer with you while you're waiting for the ferry. So that's what we did. And we're sitting there, and then I can't remember, these guys walked up to us or you walked up to them, and
yeah, they came up with lobsters, and we were like $5 or something for a full blown lobster, and we're like, wait, what?
Yeah, no, I think it was more. It was like, I think it was like $15 or $20 a lobster, but you were like, hell yeah, dude, we'll take all of them. And they sat there and showed us how to clean them. You just rip them in half alive, and then you take you break their antenna off their face, and you shove it up their asshole and pull the entrails out. That's how you clean a lobster.
That sounds fun.
And then throw it on, and then throw the tail on the barbecue. And I'll have to post some pictures. I have pictures of that stuff. I'll post pictures on social media. But anyway, long story short, we ended up. Oh no, we were gonna hike out that day. We ended up just drinking more than one beer and having those lobsters. Ended up just staying the night there camping and went back in the morning. So we never finished that trip because your idea was way better.
Yeah, we had some pretty exciting stuff happen on that trip. If you remember, a buffalo sat on my tent when I was sleeping in it.
Oh
We
yeah,
had,
What?
yeah, dude.
yeah, dude, we were in our tent and we set up for camp, and I was in this little one person tent, and I felt something heavy like smash the whole top of my tent in, and luckily I was on an air mattress, but it pushed me into the air mattress, and I mean, I yelled out in profanity. I don't know what you guys want for this podcast, but it was definitely not something fun. And the guys are like, "Are you okay, Mike?" And I'm like, "Hell no, something big just pushed my tent in." And they're like, "Ah, it was probably like a squirrel or some shit." And I was like, "No,
That's a
it
big
wasn't a
fucking
squirrel." You know, so everybody's thinking Mike's just being a puss. And in the morning we wake up and there's this 2,000-pound buffalo walking through our campsite. Had been there all night, man. Dude,
Just
I
hanging
could have
out.
died.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
dude.
no, I got pictures of that buffalo too. As a matter of fact, I'll post that too. So yeah, that was a cool trip.
Dude, that
and then
happened. We
got
went
to
out to
Go ahead.
Arizona to go.
Oh,
when we went out there, we were just out in the middle of nowhere, and then there was just cows walking around.
Yeah, just a big old bull.
The
We thought it was
big
going to
bull,
charge us.
Yeah, we just pulled up in the middle of the night. The bull sitting there. I did not see that coming.
It just started walking toward us. I remember. Okay, I'm putting this.
Yeah, we slowly
bitch in
back
reverse.
away, and then they were everywhere. It was crazy.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of nature and getting out in
That's-
these places. You never know what's going to happen or
That's
what
true.
you're going to come up against.
Yeah. Well, hey,
Yeah,
man, I wanted to ask you about your new venture. I
Sure.
believe it's called Exhale Boise. Is that
Yeah,
now? Is this your company?
Yeah, correct. So I actually started about, well, and my story will go back quite a bit, but
We can
I
we
went
can
in, I went,
go back the whole
yeah, I
way if
went
you
through
want.
I'm going to back it up because I think it's important for the listeners to understand. I went through a really hard time last year. I went through a place where most people would think they were completely satisfied with life. I sold a business that I had built for 10 years, Razor Logistics, got that to, producing a massive amount of business and a great number, and somebody wanted to purchase it, and it put me in a financial position where I was comfortable. And then I went through about an 18-month downward spiral, like lost my purpose, lost my vision, realized that the value of money didn't do anything to make me happy. And I got really bad, like really depressed. And, I won't get into too much detail how far that went, but it went far to the end almost. And I came out and I got into plant medicine. I went down to South America and I tried ayahuasca, which changed my life. Like it showed me everywhere I had been searching for love and love of self, and like just figuring out what do you want to do with your life. So I came back with this revitalized like vision, not necessarily clear yet, but it was a vision of being able to be service to others in a way that could help others see the beauty in life. And I got into life coaching, and I started a company called Motivation RX. Motivation RX is my personal life coaching business. So I provide individual life coaching for people. And although that was very fulfilling, I continued to go and dabble into different modalities. And one of the modalities that I came across was somatic breathwork. And somatic breathwork was the most powerful experience I've ever had in my life that didn't require a drug or, some external contribution. This was something that we all have inside of us that we can harness it, and we can use it in a specific way to release stress and stored trauma. Somatic means of the body, and we forget that our body actually holds all the stresses and traumas that we experience in life. So you may have had, as an example, if a dog came to attack you as a little kid, and that dog starts coming at you, the first thing you do is you jump out of the way. It's a physical reaction first. And then you get a sensation that might be fear, that might be anger, that might be something that goes along with that action that your body took. And then lastly, your brain will tell you a story of what happened. So what we don't realize is our body actually stores that trauma and that reaction. You're going to know how to react faster. Well, and for some people, that might mean every time a dog walks by them, they react with that scared, protective reaction because it's stored in their body. So a lot of times throughout life, we are experiencing these stresses and traumas that are storing all of this in our bodies, and we don't ever have a way to release that. We're not taught how to release stress. And, stress is pressure from the outside and it builds up. Stress can become, it's going to press down on you. It'll cause depression. It can actually get to a point where stress, we know is the number one killer of people. Stress is the one thing that we have to figure out how to express. So through somatic breath work, what we do is we pressurize the body so we have a way to push the stress out and release it. And it's so beautiful. It's the most powerful thing that I've ever been able to witness and facilitate. Expressing stress might look like yelling at the top of your lungs. Imagine when the last time you've been able to just yell as loud as you wanted to in an angry way and just get it out. But if you did that around your house, your kids would start crying. Your wife would think you lost it, men and women. So, and then the other side of that is behind most of that anger, and especially for men, especially most of that anger that we express, once you fully express that and you have nothing left to give, there's usually sadness behind that. And then you start to cry. And then you cry like you've never cried before. You cry like you just lost your best friend. You cry like the world just ended. You release a whole nother wave of stress that you've been holding. Trauma that you've been holding inside of you. My first experience with breathwork, I actually had a death and a rebirth of my ego. I've obviously been on this healing path for the last, year, trying to make myself a better person. And during breathwork, I was able to realize that when I was in that crying, like just emotional, first it was yelling and then it broke into tears. And I realized you can let that old you go. That's not you anymore. And that was obviously a big wave of emotion that came over, and I worked through that. Well, the second half of somatic breathwork is when you fill yourself with what you want to bring back into the world. And the message that came to me was, fill yourself with the love that you didn't think you could receive, that you didn't think you were worthy of. And then as you can see, I'm emotional now, but it was a whole nother wave of emotional release. And that took 1 hour for me to go from letting the old me go to filling the new me with this amazing love and energy and light that I could bring into the world. And after experiencing that, and this wasn't, I experienced it multiple times, but each time's different. And every time I'm done with breathwork, I come into the world as a cleaner person with more capacity and more room to be able to share with others. And I realized that how powerful it was for me. Now imagine me facilitating this in a room with 30 people all going through it at the same time. When one person's yelling, it's giving somebody else over on the other side of the room permission to yell. And next thing you know, everybody's yelling and they're all releasing. And then one person's crying, and that's addictive, and it's giving each other permission again. And, a lot of the stressful, traumatic scenarios that we go through in life are caused by other people. And when we have an opportunity to heal with other people, it's the most powerful thing you will ever experience. Part of it also has human touch. So I have touch techniques, and you'd be surprised, man, if you're going through that breath work and you're starting to feel emotional, just having somebody come up and put a hand on your heart and saying, you have all your answers right here. You're whole. You always have been. You don't need to change anything. We're not broken. People aren't broken. They're not defective. There's nothing that needs to change or be fixed. We just get stuck. We all get stuck at certain times. And a lot of it's because we're not releasing the stress and trauma. So yeah, the new company is called Exhale Boise. The reason that obviously it's Exhale Boise is because this is where I live and this is where we're launching it. But I actually have plans to do Exhale all over. So I've already got Exhale San Diego in works, Exhale Austin, Exhale Miami, and like we really want to get this message out. In somatic breathwork right now, the actual somatic breathwork trademark program, there's 700 practitioners worldwide. We get together weekly, monthly, and share experiences and growth. And it's just such a beautiful community. And I think that's what more people need is, you know, and I relate this back to what you do too, because when you have had that release and that stress is off your shoulders, then you go out into nature and you take a deep breath and you put your feet in the dirt and you just want to be a part of it. You want to, you know, that this innate beauty in our body. I mean, you look at our cells are constantly recreating. We're constantly healing ourselves. We're changing. I believe it is every 7 years that we're a completely different person, right? Every cell in our body has been regenerated already. Yeah. Cool. And then when you look at the processes that our body does automatically, we process food, right? We heal, blood moves. We're able to do so many processes. There's one thing that we can choose to do, and that does it by itself, and that's the breath. The breath is the connection between the conscious and the subconscious. We can choose to breathe. I haven't thought about it this whole time we're talking. Probably been talking so fast, it doesn't seem like I did breathe. Or I can choose to take a deep breath in. And we can control our sympathetic and our parasympathetic nervous system just from breath. If I want to elongate my inhale, and I can put myself into a sympathetic state and actually get to a point of fight or flight. And then I can control how I want to release stress. And then if I want to elongate my exhale, and I can take a deep breath in and then elongate it. That actually calms me down and puts me in a parasympathetic state. So now I regulated my nervous system. I can calm down.
So
oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to clarify. So if it's literally, you can, because this has always intrigued me, it has been on my list of things to explore. So it's literally, you sounds like you're saying it can be a technique of specifically how you perform each breath to accomplish different goals.
Yeah. And it's very simple. So with the program that we use, there's only 2 breathing techniques. Super simple. It's either you're spiking your sympathetic system by elongating your inhale, and that's that faster, or you're elongating your exhales, which is to calm yourself down. So the first 30 minutes is spiking. The second 30 minutes is bringing yourself back down. So you're eliminating stress, and then you're feeling your body again with whatever you want to bring back into it. So it's a meditative breathing process. I mean, that's something they should be teaching kids in school, is how to come into class and then do a breath exercise and regulate your nervous system and calm yourself down and get yourself ready for whatever your day has in store.
Is that the breathing thing like a physical trigger, like everybody has it? There's specific, for 4 seconds this and 5 seconds that, or is it stopping, just kind of stopping and pausing and then taking a minute to think? You see what I'm saying? Like, is it a physical thing or is it like a mental thing?
You're talking about through like a somatic.
Well, the breathing session itself, right? The act of breathing, is that something that triggers a physical reaction because of that, or is the breathing more of a pause and to think about either what you're going to say next or where you're at? You saying
no? It's a physical reaction that your body automatically recalculates to.
Like, you don't have to learn to get a reaction out of it. You're going to get a reaction the first time you do it, let's say correctly.
100%. And for some people, and if it's a somatic breathwork session, for some people, you may not get to a point where you're yelling or where you're crying or you're feeling any of that. But at the end of it, you've recalculated your body. You hyper oxygenated your body. you're playing with the CO2 and the oxygen, or the CO2 and the carbon monoxide in your body, and then you're recalibrating at the second half. So imagine all the cells in your body that, you know, they're all a life support system for you, and you're over oxygenating every single one of them. You're giving them life force energy to its fullest extent.
Mm.
Yeah, and then, you know, there's just simple things that people don't take the time to do. It's just slowing down and remembering that whatever you're experiencing, it's not just in your head, it's in your body, and your body's going to continually react that way unless you change those patterns. So this is a way to really experience what some simple breath technique can do. And there's a lot of guided things through it, right? I mean, obviously there's music that goes to it that pumps you up and gets you really into that state in the first half. There's calculated breath holds at a certain point. So once you're super oxygenated, everybody takes a breath hold, and you'd be surprised how long you can hold your breath after you do something like this, like 3 minutes sometimes or more.
Oh, wow.
And then you come back out of that and you go right back into it. So it's not just hyper breathing for half hour. There's, you know, 10 minutes and then a break, 10 minutes and a break, 10 minutes and a break. And then you work yourself into the parasympathetic and slow it down. So what we found too. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, when you're doing this, are you literally just focusing on the breathing itself, or is this kind of a going in like hand in hand with meditation at the same time, as far as trying to clear your mind and things like that?
Yeah. So at the beginning of each session, what I do is I take people through a grounding meditation session. It lasts about 10 minutes. And then we set an intention for what they want to receive out of the session. And the idea is to get completely out of your head completely. And all you focus on is deep belly breaths into your belly. You want to see your belly extend and go back down. You're focused on breath and nothing else. You start to go through that recalculation of that oxygen and carbon monoxide, and you start to feel tingly throughout your body. There's different physical sensations that start to happen. And then you start to feel that release. I encourage people to use their sound when they're exhaling. So, you know, when they're going to take in a deep breath in, and they may just be like, ah. And that vibration to me actually knocks things loose. And, you know, maybe the next inhale and exhale, now that one's going to be a little bit louder. And, you know, you eventually get to a point where, you know, for lack of better terms, fuck it. It's time to just let it go. Stop holding on to whatever it is that you're afraid to let go of. And that's when it gets beautiful. It's just so beautiful, man. I hear people, and I guess this is part of my plant medicine experience too, is when people are puking and crying and, you know, all these emotions, that's a physical release, and it's healthy. It's good, right? I mean, the puking part probably doesn't sound like it, but in plant medicine, you're taught that.
Is this a lot like, or anything like, when people do the put people in trances? What I'm thinking of, like hypnotism, like a hypnotism thing, where some people are more receptive to it, or they are more affected by it than others, and some maybe not at all. Or is it something that if you do it, this is going to happen regardless whether you want to or not?
So, and I think each person's experience is different. It comes to their ability to be willing to allow themselves to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So it may take a couple sessions for people to be comfortable with the process and how it happens, and before they get to a point where they're okay with just allowing themselves to what's the word? Surrender. Yeah. You know, we have, every person has a defense mechanism, and that defense mechanism is in place to protect us. But what we don't realize is that defense mechanism also stops us from comfortably going to the places of the unknown. And once you're in a place of the unknown, that's where opportunity lies.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a good full circle back to going hiking. You're just heading into something an unknown, and then that's where you really open yourself up to find cool things, because, you know, you just make circles in your house. You've already seen everything there. So let's go somewhere else. Luke and I were approached by a couple, the girls that come into the tattoo shop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they've been asking Luke sometimes. He kind of passes it on to me. They do. It's kind of like an ayahuasca trip, but it's What they say? They said, do you remember what it's called? Like the chemical or the flower?
It's
a plant.
It's a version of what's the ecstasy drug?
MDMA.
MDMA.
MDMA. It's a
So
version
are
of
they
that, but
doing
like a toned
psilocybin?
down. It's not psilocybin. It's like a toned down version of something. It's the same concept, though.
Right. Well, they were saying that the ayahuasca, if that's the grandpa, the old heavy hitter grandpa that comes in and hits you like a ton of bricks, this one is the comforting grandmother that just holds you on her bosom.
Wachuma, maybe.
That sounds right. Something like that.
Maybe.
Wachuma is like a peyote, but a lot lighter.
Yeah, and so
Maybe.
they were, they were saying that you have to be willing, because like there's a bunch of people and they're kind of all hanging out. Like when you first get there and you kind of start, it takes a little while to get comfortable with it. And toward the middle and end, there are people that are kind of lying with each other and kind of just being near each other and really talking about things that they wouldn't normally talk about. It gives them an opportunity to be vulnerable, like you're saying, and I feel like maybe that's kind of a chemical way of getting there, and yours is more of a natural, as far as the breathing way of getting there. But I think am I correct in saying that if the more comfortable we are of really allowing it to do what it needs to do, as opposed to kind of holding back or being critical of it, the more you open to it you are, then maybe the better experience that you might get from it.
100%. Yeah, it's again about that ability to allow yourself to be vulnerable. And with a lot of those plant medicines, that sounds like a heart opener, which could be like an MDMA, and even mushrooms and stuff are used in the same scenario, where you go into it with a lot of anxiety and not understanding, and then by the end of it, you're feeling the love of everything around you. You're connected, human connection.
And
Having
you've
groups
done
like this.
You've done
Sorry,
both, right? You're saying that you were doing the plant medicine and then also the breathing. Is there one that you prefer over the other, or do they just have their place?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So they all have their own place, and when you look at stuff like ayahuasca and wachuma and peyote, those are teacher plants. So they have a purpose, and it's to teach and to heal. They're healers. Breath work is also a way to get release from stress and trauma, and also reconnect with community and be able to allow that vulnerability to come into your life. They're all, obviously each person to their own, and their own, what they decide to do. But, I'll give you a great example with the depression and the stuff that I dealt with. Ayahuasca cured my depression. Like I came out of it from a depressed state to a place of euphoria, but not like a euphoria you'd get from a drug, like a euphoria you get from clarity. So it provided such great clarity and teaching. And the breath work is more like something, I enlighten the breath work to something that's easier accessed. It's obviously not illegal to breathe. And the more people that can learn to express that stress on the mat, then the less people that are expressing that stress in the world. And that's truly like the whole goal here, is better out on the mat than out in the world.
Yeah, no doubt. Is there a way for people to, if they're concerned about being that way in front of other people, they can do it in the privacy of their own home? Is that part of it, or is it you're going to get better effect if you're with a group of people?
So, and there are people that are super hesitant and want to be able to express with others around, and they're not comfortable. Right. Obviously that's understandable. So it's funny, right before we got onto this podcast, I was actually setting up my calendar. So every Saturday I offer a 90-minute online Zoom breathwork session. You can do it in the privacy of your home.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to guide you through it, play the music, give you the cues, help you express it wherever you're at. So my first experience that wasn't in person, online, my wife, and by the way, you have to inform people that you might be yelling and screaming and crying, and just leave you alone. There's nothing wrong, right?
Right.
So my wife was downstairs, and she was supposed to do the session with me, but she couldn't get her headphones to work. So I'm upstairs with my headphones in, and I'm just going at it. I'm yelling, and I'm screaming, and I'm crying. I'm going through the whole emotional gamut. And I come down and she goes, my headphones broke. So I just had to listen to you the whole time. She's like, sounds like you got a lot out of it. and literally for 2 hours later, my body still felt like it was vibrating, like I was shaking. Like there was still a recalibration going on from doing it at home. So it can be as powerful in person or online. The only benefit that obviously you get in person is the hands-on touch and having somebody there with you to specifically guide you through. And you know, when somebody has an emotional break, you know, you can comfort them and you can help them know that it's okay and they're in a safe place. But obviously they can get that at home as well. So I want to make it accessible to everybody. Everybody that's a part of the program wants to make it accessible, you know, to everybody. Group sessions are great. We also do private sessions, and then there's online sessions.
I think that'd be cool to do. My last couple of years, I've been really like, let's just try everything that's available. Let's do that. Let's try that, from zip lining and hiking to hot air ballooning to skydiving. I mean, everything that I get my hands on to experience, I've done that. So that's cool. Like, we might try to figure out how to get in on that. And
well, I'll
I
give you guys
definitely
the
deal
link.
with
We got
stress
one
and
this
anxiety.
Saturday coming up at noon Pacific Standard Time. So I'll send you a link you can add to your podcast. And just, there's no charge for it. So I'm opening this one up to the public so people can just kind of dip their toe in the water and see how it works for them.
Absolutely, dude. I'll most certainly get a link on there, so that anyone listening that's interested can jump on that. That'll be Saturday. What's the date of that?
That's the 18th. That's in 2 days.
February
so I don't know if
18th.
this podcast will air before that, but
yeah, I think it'll come out tomorrow. That'd be cool. But it's kind of crazy, man. I gotta just take a step back on this because I'm listening to your story, and you've told me a little bit more and even a little more in depth previous to this. But this is it's an interesting topic. The breath work, obviously, but beyond that, like just the type of person that would dabble in something like that.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is that I know you as so to explain to everyone else, I've thought of you for many years as like one of my biggest mentors since I've known you. In fact, I think you were like my age when I met you. So it has to have been about 10 years ago because, I'm 44 right now. I'll be 45 this year. I want to say you told me you were 45 when we met. But, in the past decade that I've known you, I've always looked up to where you were at, you've been at in life. You've always been, in my eyes, a successful guy with a successful business, a beautiful family, and you're not throwing money around like crazy, but you can afford to do the things you want to do, and you're always willing to tag me along if that was the case, but you've always had everything great in my eyes. And I think that a lot of time in society, we all just kind of assume that everyone is in the perfect space that they appear to you that they're in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, social media.
Social media.
Right.
I mean, everyone's perfect. If you look at social media, either perfect or you never stop hearing about their problems, right?
Yeah.
No,
I delete those people. I stop hearing about that right away.
Yeah, I can't do it, man. I can't do the people that are just constantly negative, and it's just
No.
I'd rather not say anything at all. I don't need people to know my all the crazy shit that goes on in my head, But anyway, it's just interesting to hear that you were at a point, even after selling your company and stuff like that, that you were at a point where things felt hopeless to you. And from an outsider looking in and always admiring you, it's a crazy thing to hear.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show anyone listening to this that they may be thinking like, hey, I don't know what to do with my life. maybe everyone looks at me and says, you know, that guy's got it made. You know, I think that some people look at me and say that, you know, I don't know why they would do that, but they, I think that some do. And, you know, I can take a look at myself in the mirror, and that is not what I see. I think that I think I'm doing things, I'm moving in the right direction in my life, but I'm far from where I want to be, and far from having accomplished the things I want to accomplish. And I'm far from having no demons, you know. I've worked on a lot of them, and if I can hold my course, I've done an outstanding job. You know, I haven't drank in almost 9 months, and it's amazing the progress I've made physically and emotionally without that poison going into my body all the time. But you know, it's just I guess what I'm getting at is that this type of healing isn't just for hippies and hippies and airplanes. You know what I mean? Yeah. You don't have to be a crazy stoner to dabble in breath work, you know?
Yeah. So I know I'll touch base a bit on that too, because, you know, for the longest time, I guess in my life, that's what I wanted the world to see. You know, I've always been somebody that I considered to be a leader, and somebody that was always pushing the envelope and looking for ways to be successful, and you know, monetary and having stuff. Moving out of California was the best move I ever made, but still I still went deeper into depression. You know, a lot of people deal with depression, and I've dealt with it for the majority of my life. And the way that I dealt with it was by trying to do extreme things like skydiving and riding my motorcycle at 150 miles an hour, or, you know, jumping off cliffs, or just basically putting caution to the wind and not thinking about the consequence of tomorrow. And eventually, you know, dealing with Western medicine and going through numerous doctors and medications and all these diagnoses and, you know, labels, and just, you know, that shit wears on you. It gets to be old, and there's no fucking cure through Western medicine. You know, they act like there is, and if it's not quite working well, we'll add another pill, and we'll add another pill. Eventually you get to the point where the side effects do add up. So for me, I had to the craziest thing, man, I went to my doctor and said, you know, this isn't working for me, and I'm looking for something outside of it. My doctor actually said, you know, Mike, Western medicine is not where it needs to be, and it's not going to be in your lifetime. You should probably look outside of Western medicine. Like, that was my doctor's recommendation. And that's what I did.
Sounds like a good doctor.
Yeah, I know shit. And you know what? And she said, would you please come back and let me know how things worked out? And you can imagine the conversations we're having today.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, you know, I wouldn't tell everybody in the world that ayahuasca is right for them, or that, you know, plant medicine. And first of all, plant medicine like that isn't something you can do a lot of. It is taxing on your body. It is taxing emotionally. There's not a lot of people that do ayahuasca and say, oh, I can't wait for that experience again.
Oh, really? No, I was questioning about that.
Man, it's definitely something. Well, and not only that, but the downloads that you get are so powerful and so strong. You have a ton of work to do when you come back. Like, I'm talking about years. The first thing I had to do was make amends. I had to tell people, like an alcoholic does in one of the steps of that program, right? I had to come back and be like, fuck, I'm so sorry for who I've been, because that's not who I am. It's just all these blocks I've had that I've lived with my whole life that, you know, forced me to be this way. So yeah, when it comes to that, I think when people finally decide, first of all, I want to say, anybody out there struggling with depression or mental illness, you're not alone. It doesn't matter who you are in life. You are absolutely subjective to stuff like that. You could be a CEO of a company, or you could be a homeless person, and there's no distinguishing between happiness. You know, you can choose to be homeless and happy, and you can be a billionaire and be suicidal. I mean, we've seen that in society.
It's crazy that and everybody talks about, you know, like, oh, if I just had a whole bunch of money, then, you know, all of my issues would go away. So, you know, still, I'm sure it makes things easier, but I think it's also, it just allows you to seek out different things that maybe some people that don't have money can. You know what I'm saying? Sure. But for those that are able to do that, like yourself, if you're like, okay, I spent the time and the money really doing the research, and now I have something that we can cut to the chase, right? Like you don't have to have a whole lot of money to do what you're offering, and maybe that is something that's more accessible to somebody else, and still hopefully get some benefits out of it.
100%. Breathwork is something that once you learn it, you always have it. We've
Right.
always had it. We just didn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
That's the funniest thing, huh? It's the one thing that we do all day, all night, every night, and we're terrible at it, right?
Yeah,
we
right.
suck at it.
We suck at it. We can't figure it out.
Yeah.
If there was a way to, it's hard for me to turn my brain off, and I know Luke's felt the same way, but at the end of the day, I'm just like laying in bed and just all the things going through. And so that's always been something, is just try to kind of slow everything down to get some sleep and that type of thing. So maybe what you're offering can do that as well, I would imagine. Maybe like a little quickie right before you go to bed. You can, just get on a little quick breathing session, and then maybe you'd sleep a little better.
Daily practices, stuff before bed. Just remember, if you elongate your exhale, you're going to calm your nervous system down. Simple as that. Deep breaths in your nose, elongate your exhale. I get to the point where I can take 3 breaths in a minute,
and change something.
And you will calm down.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't keep looking at your phone and your TV and all the other electronic stimulus that you got going on.
While you're doing that, you're reading your emails. You're like,
not the right kind of breathing.
That's right.
And if you're eating a bunch of crap before bed, and like, you really got to take this seriously. But when it comes back down to it, what I found through plant medicine and through breathing, what's the common factor here, right? It's all nature. It's all a natural part of what we already have access to. There's no magic pill that you can take from a doctor, or there's nothing you can buy to put in your home that's going to make you happy. Like, get the fuck out in nature and go. And it sounds stupid and funny, but dude, hug a tree, man. Like, do you realize how much energy?
Oh boy, I saw that coming. No,
I go from a CEO to a tree hugger, but you know what? I'm you know me. I'm not a hippie. I'm not somebody that's outdoorsy in the sense of like, I'm still gonna enjoy the shit out of life. August, I'm going back and doing Kilimanjaro again.
I was gonna ask you about
me
that.
and you we got a hike planned, and I did my Spartan races, completed my ultra, last year. And like, I'm still challenging myself in nature, but at the same time, it's not all about that. You hear this, it's not about the destination, guys. Like, it's about the journey. And if you could just take 5 minutes a day to get outdoors, you'd change everything.
I hate it when I can't get outdoors at least a little bit. Most of the time it's unfortunately dark and 4 o'clock in the morning, because that's when I have the time to do it. But I do it, Haven't been able to lately. It's been too freaking cold.
Yeah, cool. Come up.
Nothing
Idaho,
compared to where you're at. but
everywhere with anybody that calls in is somewhere that was like 14 degrees below zero or something.
Yeah,
like
that. Dude, we'll put it this way: I have to take my flip flops off and put my shoes on. This is fucking ridiculous.
Too cold.
I remember when you used to go on a 1 mile run and come back 15 miles later. Like,
Yeah, that still happens actually.
You get warm when you run.
Yeah, it's true. Speaking of running and stuff like that, this may or may not translate in any way, shape, or form. But with learning to be better at breathing and utilizing breath as a tool, would you say that helps in physical activity, like exercise, like running or hiking up a big mountain or something like that?
Yeah. So the breath is everything we do. The breath is, our life is determined by breath. The first breath we take to eventually the last, right? A breath is connected to everything. And the people who started somatic breathwork, Stephen Jaggers and Fish Fisher, they were both body workers before. So Stephen was a body worker, and he worked with people in athletic and other fields, and Fisher worked on the PGA with golfers. And they realized that through everything they were doing with the body, that they were breath workers first. So imagine even a traumatic experience where somebody's, I've had this happen where I'm having a panic attack, and I start to hyperventilate and I feel like I'm having a heart attack, and I get 911 and the emergency comes. And what's the first fucking thing they tell you to do? Take a deep breath, elongate your exhale, take a deep breath. They focus on the breath first. It's always breath first. So as an athlete, when you're working on understanding your breath, and obviously, you know, I've competed in some pretty big events. If you regulate your breath, then your body doesn't get wore out. And in a like sense, if you're holding a lot of stress in your body, imagine stress is tension. Stress is like that knot in your shoulder, and that knot in your shoulder, it doesn't get held there without effort, right? That knot in your shoulder, it requires energy to hold that knot there. And we're keeping our entire body in that state by not exhaling, breathing properly, and expressing all of our stress and traumas. So our body is constantly holding all of this, which is taking energy. So by releasing that, you now have more energy and you can use it in any way you want. So in sports and athletics, man, I would recommend a breathwork session prior to any main event. Get all that shit out, and then, you know, go into your breathwork into your event, knowing that when I'm running and I'm doing an ultra, and, you know, an ultra can take 10 hours plus, and I start to feel fatigue, the first thing I do is remember to breathe. And then I start breathing and slowing my breathing. And once I got my breathing slowing, it doesn't matter what my body's doing. My body doesn't feel the exhaustion because I'm breathing.
Wow. What's
it with the right amount of oxygen.
Not trying to change the subject, but what exactly is the ultra you're talking about? Like what's involved in that?
Spartan ultra. So
Spartan
that
ultra.
is 50 kilometers. I think it's 50 obstacles. The event is, if you ever heard of the Spartan races, it's a Spartan beast times 2.5.
Holy crap.
Back to back, right? So you start at 6 o'clock in the morning and you finish at 6 o'clock at night, and there's about an 80% dropout rate. Like, it's pretty gnarly.
Are you constantly moving for that time for 12 hours?
Oh, the whole time. You get there's a transition station that's about I don't know, 13 miles into it, where you can have like food and snack, and you can actually take a rest. But as soon as you leave transition, you're going again. You can't go back to transition. So you can, and they say transitions where most Spartan races go to die, because people will do the first half and then they're just like, nah, good, I can't do it. They sit too long in transition.
Do you take a break, or do you just keep going, or like in this transition?
You know what? So I only done one of the ultras, and I took less than 5 minutes for transition. I basically pounded a cup of noodle soup, grabbed refilled my water and my electrolytes and my stuff that I would take in my vest, and then I went. And then I probably got about another 1.5 miles, and I had to sit down on the ground for about 10 minutes just because but I didn't wait in transition because I didn't want to fail.
You don't want to let yourself get comfortable.
Yeah, but I think like out of and this was last year's event, and this was in Hawaii. I think well, they don't tell you how many people started, but I know there was a couple hundred at least, and I think 50 finished. So
wow.
You know, it's one of those
and
things
all of those people that thought they were going to be able to finish, right? 200. They're obviously not just like some schmo that's never ran something like that before. They've trained for this.
Yeah, in most cases they're elite athletes that have put a lot of time and energy into it. But you know, there could be an injury, there could be a cramping, there could be all kinds of things that happen. So, and the obstacles get pretty challenging too. And if you fail an obstacle in an ultra, then you have to do penalties that are fucking brutal. I mean, imagine doing 30 burpees after you just ran 20 miles and had done all these different obstacles. And it's a ton of elevation too. Like, I think it's like 8,000 to 10,000 feet of elevation up and down throughout the race. So,
Jesus, man.
Yeah, they're not made for weak.
I hate burpees when I'm just starting.
Right.
Much less 30 of them, much less after 13 miles or whatever. That's
30 per obstacle. So the 50 obstacles, and you'd have to do 30 burpees for each one. So it's, 1,500 burpees.
Oh, Jesus.
Do you have to turn around and try to do the obstacle again after that? Or
no, once you
either
fail the
or,
obstacle,
right?
you just do the burpees and move on.
Okay.
But hey, I've been in my fairness, I don't do burpees ever. I fucking complete every damn obstacle. Can you
turn around and try the obstacle again rather than doing burpees?
Some yes, some no. But
okay.
So some of them might be this gnarly wall that you got to jump up and get onto and try to, get over.
And you're like 3 feet tall,
the first
like me.
ring is 7 feet off the ground. So, but there's some other ones that's like a rope. You have to traverse a rope all the way across. If your foot touches the ground, no, you're straight to burpee zone, like things like that. But
Gotcha. That's crazy.
yeah.
And then you throw a spear.
Cool. I've been
You
trying
throw
to
a
get
spear, right?
Luke.
I'm going to do it. I mean, we'll see. We'll work up to the ultra, but I want to do a race with you for sure. I want to do, but I don't want to like go do the easy one either.
No, I'll do a beast.
I'll do a beast
is
with
13 miles, man. You can bust that out usually about 2.5, 3 hours. And it would be, I mean, you're trying to flip a 200-pound tractor tire at one point. Like,
well, that's the thing is like I can go run 13 miles right now, no problem.
Yeah.
But I mean, it won't be fun, but I can do it. But you throw the obstacles in there, that's a whole nother beast, as they say.
Yeah. So you imagine what is it when people? I don't run. I hate running, and I do these races, but I hate running. But when you do a marathon, what is that like?
26.2. I'm actually thinking about
26.
signing up for the San Diego Rock and Roll Marathon coming up here in June, I think.
Yeah, so imagine a marathon in the mud, uphill both ways with 50 obstacles. that's kind of what.
That's insane, dude. But you don't like running, right? So,
I hate it.
When you say something like that, it makes me feel better about the fact that I feel like I could, if you could do it, I could do it.
Yeah, because with so many obstacles, it's not like you're running 15 miles. You're running like a half a mile, and then you're doing like a bucket carry with rock in it up over. You know what I mean? So you're not really running consistently, but you are exerting the shit out of your body by doing those obstacles. Those
absolutely, and just the concept of getting your heart rate up and then slowing it back down and getting it back up, slowing it back down, like that entire time is like that's a feat in itself, right? To keep your energy levels high when you have to keep slowing down and picking back up and slowing down and changing what you're doing and so it sounds I'm going to do it. I just I need to plan it, coordinate with you because I'll go do it with you for sure.
My key to those events is it's all mental. We all have these strong minds, and our bodies want to give out when we're about 60%. If our mind gives up, our body will give up. But if our mind tells our body keep going, we'll keep going. And nobody, I don't know anybody, even extreme athletes, that tap into that 100% potential. That you have it. Think about it. If you were, you were in the military, if you were stuck behind enemy lines and you were 15 days away from getting out without food, you'd probably figure a way to make that happen.
For sure.
Mentally, you would tell yourself, if I don't, I die. And I just tell myself in an event or in things in life now, failure is not an option. Failure is an opportunity to learn and then go after it again if it's really what you want.
Absolutely. I mean, pain is just that. It's pain. It goes away. And I have a saying that I've been kind of throwing out there every now and then, and I'm sure someone else has come up with it before me. But as far as I know, it's my saying. So, but it's not so much that I want to do it; it's that I want to have done it. And that's the way I approach a lot of things. Is not. Jacob makes fun of me because he's like, "You're crazy. You want to you try to find the most painful way to do it. That you run as far as you can, even though it hurts. You keep going further, and a lot of people can't understand that concept. And it's not that I am enjoying feeling that pain right there. It's that I'm telling myself, dude, if I just go 3 more miles, I'll run further than I've ever run in my life. So it's not that I want to run that 3 more miles. It's that I want to have run that 3 more miles and say that now I've run 13.1 miles, So
yeah, I'd like to challenge you on that because you're missing the experience to get to the goal. Fuck the goal, man. Life's not about those goals. Life is about
fair
enough.
It's an interesting angle. Huh?
I can appreciate that angle.
And you know what? It's true with everything in life where we keep putting these fucking carrots at the end of the stick and we try to get to these goals. And there's not, I can tell you, ask yourself, is there one that you reached that you went, oh, that was fucking totally worth it? Looking back, had you just enjoyed the experience, wouldn't that have been even more worth it?
Well, I can definitely agree with you on that. I feel that way. A prime example of that is my experience hiking the John Muir Trail. I did it in 13 days. Most people do it in 21. I for some reason had it in my head. Well, not for some reason. I know at the time, money was tight, and I realized I could knock a week off, which meant that I was going to have another extra week to raise the money necessary to pay my bills. But so that was in the back of my head, definitely. But I remember, I still to this day, I finish and I'm like, man, I didn't even stop and look around. I didn't stop and stay at one place that was like the coolest place I'd ever seen and just fish for a day. I just didn't do it. I just hiked the whole freaking time. So you're right. It's a good point.
Well, and that's the first thing you said when we started this podcast is you want to do the John Muir Trail again this time and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people end up putting more stress on themselves is because they think that something at the end is going to provide them happiness. Life is always going to throw you fucking curveballs. It's always going to put you against obstacles to completing the things that you thought were your goals. And if we could just learn to embrace the moment, we call it being in the moment is the hardest thing for people to do. We're either stuck in the past or we're worried about a future that hasn't even happened and might not even develop. To truly just be in the moment and to enjoy each other's time and energy, feel your energy. Fuck. Dude, I'm obviously turning into this tree hugger. We already discussed this, but if you actually put your hands in front of your heart chakra, you can feel energy. You can feel the warmth of your body. Like if you don't take the time in life to just stop for a second and acknowledge how beautiful and lucky and blessed we are for absolutely achieving nothing, we're still something to be celebrated. And I think that's where the Western society gets going so fast that they forget to literally stop and just feel the sun on your face, man. Smell the roses. Watch a bee fly. Like, fuck. There's so many beautiful things going on around us that we take for granted.
It's true. It's true. I feel sorry for the people that never actually get out there into nature and see how beautiful it really is. It's just because I hate it because I talk about it all the time and I hear and I'll say, oh yeah, this whatever hike and it's just a few miles out there. And the first response from some people will be like, a few miles? Are you crazy? And it's like, it's just that lack of willingness to just go hike a few miles. It completely deprives them of the view that they would have had that you'll never see unless you go hike that few miles, because a picture never does it justice. I think all of us can attest to that.
That's true.
I got another suggestion for you is when inviting people to go on a hike, don't route it to them. Like just tell them, yeah, we're just going to go on a stroll. Well, how far is it? It doesn't matter. We'll just go as long as you want. And we'll stop and camp whenever you're ready. Like, let's just go enjoy the moment and see where we end up. I have an itinerary. I have a possibility. I know where the end could be, or, and I think people would go a lot farther than they ever thought if they just didn't worry about what the end, how long it was to the end. And I remember asking you on our trip to Maggie Lakes, how much fucking farther, dude? I'm dying here. And you're like, it's just around the bend, like 12 times.
Yeah. He pulls that out too with me when we're hiking. It's just right around the bend there. It'd be all right. Another hills around the bend is what typically happens.
Yeah, the bend is 5 or 10 miles. Funny thing about Maggie Lakes is that I've been thinking about I really like that hike, but I've been thinking about doing it again, inviting other people, and now when I plan it out in my head, it's stop at that spot right by the meadow that's like 2/3 of the way and camp there for a night, as not to torture the hell out of everyone, because that's a rough hike just straight through. It's only like 13 miles, but man, there's some serious elevation on that thing.
There's about 1.5 miles of that that's straight uphill.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's a good one.
I got to share one funny thing about that trip as well. Is so we had walkie talkies, and Luke's probably I don't even know how far, 1/2 mile ahead of me, because I'm going baby steps at this point. And he gets on the radio and he yells, "A bear, a bear, hurry up, a bear." And I'm shitting my pants. I drop my pack. I grab my gun. I'm like, fuck, where's the bear? And I catch up and he's like, way over there. It's running up a tree. See it? Like, how cool is that?
He's like, it was like way far away.
Well, yeah, no, but he's
coming at us. It was going like, it was, was trying to share the experience of a beautiful
Right.
bear in nature, and I'm thinking the fucker's getting ready to attack us.
He's like running the other direction. Thanks for the heads up, bro. Yeah, I'm sitting there going, dude, you don't see these very often, like in actual, just in nature. You know, I mean, I've seen them, what, maybe 5 times. I've seen bears in nature. It's a pretty cool sight to me. It is a little, you know, a little sketchy. You got to make sure you're paying attention, but you know, usually they leave you alone. At least these black bears here, and you know, here in the liberal South, we like to call it.
Hey, you're not gonna find anything but those black bears pretty much everywhere in the states. Maybe a little bit up in Montana and some Wyoming, but those grizzlies, we've killed them off and then tried to bring them back. So
Yeah,
human nature, you know, we like to let's go to nature, but let's fucking destroy everything that could hurt us first.
yeah. Well, you know, I guess it's a survival thing. So Kilimanjaro, you've done that once before.
Yeah, and like you, I blasted through it. I fucking had a 7-day trip planned to summit and come back down. I completed the whole thing in 4 days.
Wow.
And this was right before I had my depressive episode. But you know, first of all, I'll tell everybody I was taking Xanax for sleep for 1.5 years, and that almost killed me because I became numb to life. I just didn't give a shit anymore. But part of that trip in Kilimanjaro was still taking my Xanax. So I actually had a solo trip planned, so I didn't have anybody else to slow me down. The guys that were supporting me were awesome. We made it to base camp on day 3, took a little nap, summited I think we took off at midnight, day 4, summited, came back down to base camp, took about an hour nap, regrouped, and we walked 25 miles out. Like,
wow,
so I can do those miles with you, but I'm going back to Kilimanjaro now because I want to fucking enjoy it. The same thing about Maggie Lakes.
Yeah.
Like, I want to take my time and just enjoy the fact that you're walking up the highest freestanding mountain in the world. And when you get to the top, you got a view that very few people will ever get a chance to see. You know, the back of a glacier that's fucking almost gone. That glacier will be gone probably in the next 5 years.
What's the elevation on that?
19,500, something like that, 19,400 something. But it's a volcano, and it's the largest, I don't know if it's the largest freestanding volcano in the world, but yeah, even just the people in Africa, you know, like my guide, I was talking about, you know, and you know, I'll get my time wrong, but you know, how many millions or millions of years it took to form. And he said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "This mountain's only been here for 2,000 years." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Like,
how's that work?
I mean, yeah, and because they don't have education there, and they're like, well, this is 2030, you know, whatever year it is 2023. Like, the world's only been around since 2000. Like, they think the beginning of time. It's just such simple people, and they're so beautiful, and like they're living for to be able to own enough chickens to be able to give them their children enough food. And you know, the scarcity of anything. They have no materialistic things. They make like $5 a day or $10 a day, if that, while they're hiking. And so it's not just about the hike and actually doing that. It's about being in that part of the world where materialistic and Western society hasn't corrupted it so bad that you can't just be thankful for the small things. I really love to be in Peru with Peruvian people and Africa and just different countries where Western, I kind of going back and forth here a little bit, but down in Peru, there's a village with the Shipibo people. They're the ones that facilitate ayahuasca, and you know, they don't even have a word in the vocabulary for addiction. Like, it doesn't exist. They don't have access to drugs and alcohol, and they don't have it as a part of their society. And they also work with plant medicines, and they're connected to nature, and they just have a super peaceful life. And they're perplexed as to why we are so screwed up in Western society. And you know, they understand we created it, we choose to live in it, and we want all these things. But at the same time, we're also carrying all this weight and diminishing our quality of life because we're all pretty fucked up in one way or another. I know very few.
Isn't that right?
Yeah. So, you know, I just invite people to, I guess, worry about having things less and worry more about getting out and spending time in nature. Reconnect with nature. If you want your sanity back and you want your quality of life back, go for a walk, go for a hike, get away from your cell phone.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing, man, is that leash, you know, is getting
Yeah.
away from that thing. People expect, well, you have a phone, so you're expected to answer it. And if you don't, then you're like, well, what's the problem? Why aren't you answering my phone call? You know, why aren't you responding to my text immediately? I know you're sitting there staring at your phone, and we don't
Right.
have a choice to say, well, because I didn't want to do that right then. I'm doing something else. Like, that's just not acceptable, you know?
Yeah, it's
it's
nice
a
to-
weird thing.
To not even be able to.
Going camping, you can tell everybody I'm going camping, and then it kind of gives you a pass to say, well, even though most of the time there is service, I go out saying there's not going to be service. Like, it's just not going to. So I'll see you in a few days or whatever. You know, I'll talk to you in a few days. Just let it know.
There
right
might
up
be
front.
service, but there's not battery chargers. So that's what's important about taking those 3 and 4 day hikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you save it for an emergency and turn that thing off. So, yeah, that's it's another reason to get out there. It kind of forces you to rely on yourself and not, all this outside stimulus to keep you in one direction or another or what have you. So it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Well,
the
dude,
message.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming on here and telling us about your stuff. I hope that everything is. It seems like it's going well. It's how's the business going? Is it growing fairly
Yeah.
quick?
So we literally haven't even launched it yet. We're already booked. We're getting booked out. Like we started
That's
tapping
awesome.
into rehab centers and group homes
Nice.
and different places that, I'm going to try to get into the VA right now.
Nice.
Obviously I have a big heart for that, and, just different studios. So it's blowing up, and we already know we've got to, manage the business properly so we don't burn ourselves out, because believe it or not, it actually is super taxing emotionally to facilitate, because you're in that with people in their healing. So, when you come out of it, you're like, I need a breathwork session now.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah,
Now,
it's regardless of financial success, it's successful in the fact that the word's getting out and people are doing it. And
Yeah,
we're
that's
seeing
mostly
that
what I
benefit.
meant. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I personally, at this point, I just want to enjoy what I do in life, and I want to know I'm giving back to others and I'm of service to others. I'm providing a container for people to heal. So, if anything, throw up my link. If anybody ever wants to just reach out and has questions, I'll always be available, and we'll make it as accessible as possible. And obviously, you guys feel like laying in your room and screaming and hollering and crying and just having a moment for yourself, jump on, man. I'll take care
I
of it.
might be able to do that this weekend. I'm supposed to be working, but that might change. So if so, I'll jump on for sure. It's a good opportunity to give this thing a swing. And I got one question. Do you charge the flies to be on the wall in that room?
No. So there's no charge for this session at all on Saturday. So anybody can sign in and just be able to observe. If they don't want to participate, totally fine. Obviously, you're going to get more out of it if you just close your eyes and try the breath. You don't have to
Roll with it. Yeah.
So, and I want to explain that too. The breath work is guided, but it is not instructed. So when you look at some breath work sessions, like Wim Hof is a great one. I used Wim Hof, but Wim Hof's like, breathe, motherfucker, breathe, like super into it. Somatic breath work is the participant is in control. You have your foot on the gas pedal. I'm not telling you how fast to breathe. You breathe as fast as you want. If you feel uncomfortable, then you slow it down. You control it. So it's not something that, you can get into it and try it. And if you're not getting there, then you can back out of it if you want. If you want to get more out of it, then you'll just put more into it. It's as simple as that. So.
All right, man. Well, hey, we're definitely gonna have you back on. I'd like to hear any progress stuff and just updates on your just anything you got going with the business. That'd be cool. And feel free to use this podcast to point. If anyone wants a good explanation of what you're doing and you don't have the time to do it, point them at this episode, and hopefully they can find out that way.
Very cool. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate you having us on, I appreciate you coming on, letting us have you on. Just so everyone knows, we are finally live on Apple Podcasts, so find us there. We still have our drawing going on. I didn't mention it last week. We did a dual podcast last week with another podcast with Friends with Benefits, and so I didn't get a chance to get to it. But we're giving away a free Captain's Loot fire starter kit. So all you got to do is jump on our website, go to the neverinsidetheory.com, and just enter your email for a chance to win that. We have 2 more weeks. In 2 more weeks, we'll do the drawing. And go check out our social media accounts. Email us at, neverinsideco@gmail.com if you have any questions, if you want us to address anything on the podcast. And don't forget to go join our website as a member and purchase some Never Inside gear, tents, backpacks, you name it. We've got the stuff for being outside, for doing a little outsiding. And that's it. You got anything else there, pound sign?
No, it was great to put a face to the name there, Mike. So Luke talks about you all the time. He's told me many, many stories. So it's good to finally officially meet you.
Hey, we'll have some adventures together, I'm sure, man. It's a pleasure to meet you as well.
All right, guys.
All right, brother.
That's it. Thank you for listening. Let's outside.
Thank you again to all of our outsiders. Please check out our website, neverinside.com, for all of your gear. And you can reach out to Never Inside on Facebook and at Never Inside on Instagram. Let's outside.